12, and we'll be joined by Hover, who is the moderator. I think he has some technical difficulties.
I'm calling them off.
Okay, I can see I'm receiving a call from Balu now.
Yeah, it will go live
What do you
automatically.
say?
We will just start from here, okay?
So are we actually live now? Are we streaming? I'm receiving a call from Balu now.
No, he's actually on the phone. He's calling you.
Are we actually live now? Are we streaming?
Right side.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Over is in, right?
Yes, Dennis is in. Dennis is in.
Gentlemen, welcome.
Hi, Dennis.
Hello. Hey, Havar. Hello.
Hi, Dennis.
Nice to meet you. I think we'll be doing a couple of others shortly, so give it a couple of minutes. But looking forward to making this happen. Should be a fun little chat.
Should be. Should definitely be.
And thanks for that question. Yeah, that was really interesting. Yeah, it was a really good addition. So we'll definitely have a chat about that. Alrighty. So where are our friends?
I think they have technical difficulties.
Element, I think you might have to speak for everyone.
Yeah, I'm just here to accompany you.
I hope you've run a startup before and also been involved in government activities. That'd be really helpful.
What do you say?
I hope you've run a startup before and been involved in government activities. That would be really helpful for you to answer all the questions.
No, I have actually very interest in tourism, and we have, we're a lot of things actually to improve in Africa, especially when it comes to digitalizing.
Yeah. Well, look, my friend, the floor is open, so it's like I said, there's only. Hey, just quickly, are we live? Like basically everything's.
We are live. Yeah. If you guys want to.
Yeah, look, I think we might as well, just kick it off and then wait for people to join, right?
Yeah,
and that way,
I'll do that, yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great way to do it. So, look, let me just welcome Havar. Obviously, we'll have the other two speakers. So we'll have Wisdom and Ronald joining us shortly. So, Havar, welcome. Great to have you here today.
Thank you.
For those of you tuned in, thank you for joining us. It should be a really interesting discussion. Obviously, the tourism industry has had a pretty big hit over the last, well, not just several months, but since effectively the beginning of the year. So I've seen it personally myself, having traveled a little bit over the course of the last 12 months. So I've seen it develop in different countries. And obviously today we're going to chat about how it's affected Africa and specifically with travel tech and tourism tech. So it's great to have all the speakers here today. Just a little bit of an introduction to myself while we get the ball rolling. I actually started my career, my second job was in hospitality. So with the biggest, effectively the biggest hospitality group in Asia Pacific. So it's the company that owns the Sky City Hotel in Auckland, New Zealand. So pretty iconic place. And then about 10 years ago, I helped launch Russia's first hospitality association. So that was a very interesting experience when it was still a bit of an emerging space. So yeah, it's still going strong 10 years later, which is great to see. And actually just this year, I helped launch a training organization for hotel personnel in the hotel space here in Russia as well. So yeah, definitely it'll be interesting to see, given what I've seen from this side of the pond, to see and hear what's going on in Russia. And obviously, everyone here will be talking about all the things that are happening in Africa. So I see that Ronald is now connected, which is great. Ronald, welcome. Yeah, as I mentioned, looking forward to getting some views on what's happening all across Africa. Havar, just by the way, your camera isn't working, so just a heads up on that front.
My camera isn't working?
There you go. Perfect. We can see you now. Beautiful. Alrighty, so welcome everyone. We have one more person joining us shortly, hopefully. But in the meantime, let me just do a quick little introduction to the people that are here. So Ronald, welcome. Just want to kind of do a little intro on what you do and your background. So,
thank you, Dennis.
Hey, great to have you as part of this. Ronald currently runs iGov Africa, which is effectively a Kenyan boutique innovation house. So they partner with governments, development agencies, and innovators, helping to develop the innovation ecosystem and make public services more efficient, which is a pretty noble cause. So Ronald has 16 years of experience in the private sector and the public sector, and he's also an entrepreneur. So he's been involved in technology, telecommunications, media, banking, and finance. So quite a diverse private sector background. He is the chairman of the Youth Enterprise Development Fund. So it's a $50 million enterprise fund that's impacted thousands of SMEs over the last 3 years. So in addition to that, he's actually a Tutu Fellow, an Aspen Institute graduate. And in 2013, he actually ran for deputy president in Kenya. So it's great to see a nice little mix of backgrounds here, so private and public sectors. So yeah, look, fantastic, background. Really interesting to hear your thoughts and insights over the next 45 minutes or so. And then, Havar, I want to welcome you as well. So I'll just do a quick little intro. Obviously, Havar is a successful founder who's been involved for the last 18 years in entrepreneurship and business development, specifically in emerging markets. So he's currently the CEO of Cloud9, which is actually acquired just recently in this year by Hotel Online, the company he helped found in 2017. Considering the things going on in the tourism sector, however, that's quite a big achievement, and I'll definitely ask you about that a little bit later. But just to let you know about Hotel Online, so it's the #1 revenue partner for the hospitality sector in Africa, and provides solutions to 5,000 hotels and restaurants, not just in Africa, but in 24 countries. It's basically one of the biggest tourism tech players on the continent now. So congrats on that merger, Havar. And he's also actively involved in the Kenyan startup community. And he organizes Kaleidoscope Africa, which is a forum that helps local ecosystems to come together and basically share knowledge. So it's great to see everyone kind of have this interesting mix of skills. Now, are we still waiting on Wisdom? I think Wisdom's now part of this as well. Wisdom, welcome to the chat. Hopefully you can see and hear us. Can you say something if that's the case? Okay. So anyway, I'll do a quick little intro to you as well, Wisdom. So Wisdom is a young entrepreneur from Ghana. So he's a serial entrepreneur, currently the founder and CEO of Major Group, which is a diversified holding company, which he launched in 2017. So it has subsidiaries in travel, consultancy, digital media, and marketing. He's also the executive director of Vision Aid Foundation, which is a non-government organization that provides clean drinking water to communities in Ghana. So he was actually nominated by Forbes Africa as the 30 under 30 class of 2020. So big congrats on that. He was also recently selected as the 40 under 40 as well in Africa. So specifically in Ghana in the travel and tourism category. So we have a very interesting group of speakers today. So very excited to hear your opinions on what's happening in tourism across the continent, right? Look, just one of the things that I want to say is that, I guess globally, right? So I was in Vietnam last year, I'm in Russia now. I've been involved in Russia launching a tourism startup here in Russia this year, which is really tough, right? So I'm just curious, given the fact how hard Africa was hit with COVID as well, what has been the impact that you've seen it have on the different kind of industries, I guess, in Kenya, in Ghana? Ronald, I'd be interested to kind of hear your perspective on that. So if you could just kind of fill us in with your thoughts, that'd be great.
Thanks a lot, Dennis. Thanks for having us in this very important conversation. And good afternoon to everybody who's joined this session. Obviously, one of the most hardest hit sectors with COVID is tourism, because, tourism is all about people moving, within the countries and across the continents and across the world. In Kenya specifically, tourism is the third largest economic sector, contributing close to 1.5 million jobs.
Yeah.
The growth rate in tourism over the last year, at least in 2019, was 10.4% year on year, which is, far outpacing global growth, but also the growth on the continent, which is at about 4%. So Kenya has really felt the impact of tourism. Jobs has been massive. I think tourism alone has contributed to over 50% of the lost jobs in Kenya in this particular period. It's been very painful for us. The arts and culture section, which is extremely vibrant in terms of supporting the tourism sector, has also felt the brunt of it. Aviation industry, obviously, has been affected. We had started picking up on the MICE space, so meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions. Kenya last year was picked as the top destination for meetings on the continent.
All right.
This, of course, has been brought to an abrupt halt. It has taken a big hit on the stock market. Capitalization has shrunk by over 120 billion Kenyan shillings. So it has been really hard, which is really about $1.2 billion, right? And this is on the tourism. So the impact has been extremely hard. But I think there are positive sides, there are upsides on COVID. The government has moved very quickly through our Magical Kenya program to pivot to domestic tourism. So you're now seeing a lot of people, particularly, when all these people started feeling this cabin fever brought about by working from home, you're now seeing a lot of domestic tourism as well. So a lot of the industry players are pivoting to promote domestic tourism. The government has produced health and safety protocols that are leveraging on technology, so pushing the innovation pillar to ensure that there are different kind of experiences with tourism. I think the biggest challenge for tourism and tech, you think about it, is that tourism, as we know it, the traditional tourism, is all about immersion. It's about immersion and experiences that sometimes can be very difficult to recreate through technology. People want to feel, experience, and touch, and immerse themselves in cultures. And this is very difficult to create through digital.
Yeah,
However,
definitely. Well, look it up. We're doing this virtually, right? So it's it's a perfect example, right? So
exactly. So I think this is where we are as Kenya. We are seeing an upswing since government opened up for tourism in August, and we can only hope that through virtual and digital experiences we can be able to see things picking up quickly.
Yeah, well, definitely. Thank you for that. And we'll actually touch on that a little bit more. Wisdom, just want to welcome you. I've actually done introductions to you already, so great to have you on the panel. So yeah, look, what I'd actually love to do.
All right, thank you so much.
Great to have you here. Look, you missed the question, but effectively, what I was wondering is that given what COVID has kind of wrought on the African continent, and I guess globally as well. What has been the impact on local economies? So obviously you're based in a slightly smaller economy compared to Kenya. So what's been the impact on Ghana, and what have you seen? Because Ghana has been really hard hit with COVID recently, I heard.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much for having me here this day. Yeah, concerning my business, I'm the CEO of Majora Group, and what Majora as a group does is we have 3 subsidiaries: the Travels and Education Consultancy side, we have the Majora Business Center, and we also have the photography. So with regards to the Travel and Education Consultancy, has been the hardest hit of our company, of our business. And what we saw during the COVID times is the airports were closed. Even conferences that were booked for people to participate in were also cancelled as well. And countries also went on lockdown. So it really affected our business one way or the other, in the sense that even those that you had to process their travel documents for them had to be cancelled. So all what I would say is our industry has been the hardest hit with regards to this COVID outbreak and all that, and it has really affected our business. But we are still trying to normalize things since now in Ghana, yeah, everything has been back to normal, and we are trying to find our way through.
Yeah, well, it's definitely tough times on the whole, right? So from that point of view, I guess, Havar, I'd love to, kind of have you, give your perspective, because obviously you've merged your business with another business, right? So you've acquired another business in 2020, right? Which in the hotel space is very unusual in the kind of the travel and tourism space, from a technology standpoint. So can you maybe give some insights and a slightly different angle on that?
Okay,
Well,
yeah,
actually-
it's true. It's not me, all right. Is it Torres to me?
No, I was saying Havar. So Havar's basically just because his business just went through an acquisition. So obviously, I guess that's not really a bad sign, right? Considering what's going on, because it's not all doom and gloom, I guess. So just curious to get a little bit of insight on that.
Well, actually, we acquired 2 companies this year. So,
Oh, right.
still, but let's also face the facts here. As in, COVID-19 has been tough for the whole industry. So everybody took a punch in the face in the best of cases in this industry as part of COVID-19. So the fact, we managed to stay put. We were in a pretty good condition already when COVID-19 hit, and we innovate like there was no tomorrow. When it happened, because obviously it's our revenues depend on the revenues that we generate for our partners. So we are a completely success-based business model, and so a lot of our revenue disappeared almost overnight. So I'm not going to say it was easy. We had to innovate. We had to keep our heads cool in a situation where everybody was panicking and there was a feeling of meltdown in the industry. So I think also the fact that we had to really turn every stone to look for new sources of revenue, both new permanent sources of revenue and also short-term one-off sources of revenue. We managed. It was tough, but we managed. And especially coming up with the kind of one-off solutions that could help us get a little bit of money from hotels that were also in a desperate situation. I think that was a lot of it. Our shareholders also put in a little bit of cash, so we got through the crisis. It was hard, it was painful, but we actually managed. That's what I can say. So the acquisitions we did was obviously it's crisis also creates opportunity. I can say it that simple. And I think that the acquisitions we did also, these were people, like in both cases, these were companies that we had a long-running relationship with. It's about in a tough situation realizing that you're better off together than apart.
Yeah,
creating something stronger. So, of course, in none of those cases did we put cash on the table, but I think we had actually struggled ourselves through the crisis, and actually had actually we're starting to see light at the end of the tunnel. There was light at the end of the tunnel. I think that also made the whole thing a viable way forward for the companies we acquired as well.
Yeah,
to create shares in something stronger. So now, as we are, of course, now that there's definitely light in the tunnel, at the end of the tunnel, and of course, we are seeing tourism resume in Kenya. We opened for international tourism in August. Most African countries are today more open than most other countries in the world. And for once, Africa actually has the image advantage, because Africa has fared better in this crisis than most other parts of the world. So for once, almost ironically, Africa, that used to be a continent that used to be at the receiving end of negative press coverage, is actually the continent that has fared the best in this crisis.
Right,
And that's a big image advantage. Africa actually appears as a safer option compared to other regions of the world.
No, I mean, look, yeah, definitely. It's funny how things work in a roundabout way, right? So, look, I guess that kind of brings me to the question of, if you think about, once again, the travel tech, tourism tech category, right? A lot of, say, hotel operators, tourism operators in Africa and other emerging markets as well, not just Africa, they're slow to adopt technology, right? So I was just curious, given the fact that COVID, and once again, we're on Zoom now, right? So Zoom has been, we use Zoom today, right? So Zoom has been a big winner as a result of, having, that kind of remote first kind of thinking come into a lot of businesses. So do you think that is going to help tourism operators in Africa, just I guess across the continent, to maybe more quickly digitize their operations or improve their operations? Ronald, I'm actually curious to hear your opinion, given your extensive experience in ICT. Do you think that is going to be, I guess, a catalyst and accelerator for for a lot of the tourism industry from a tech standpoint? Sorry, Ronald, you're muted. You're muted.
Yeah, this happens. You're absolutely right. I think, like you rightfully said, I think this is the moment that, all these technologies that we've been excited about and we've been talking about, the future of what tourism looks like, has been accelerated, and it needs to happen now. Now, we must remember that this is not the last pandemic or health crisis that we're going to have. So,
unfortunately, right? Unfortunately. So, yeah.
It is unfortunate. I mean, it took 100 years for us to be hit this hard again. But with all the movement and travel and the fast-paced life that we all are now, unfortunately, the next pandemic is probably going to come sooner rather than later, right? And so I think that we need to start predicting trends, and we need to start thinking about the future of some of this high tech in tourism. So whether we're talking about AI, mobile integration, virtual reality tours, how do we use personalized data while protecting people's data as well? This is where big data analytics comes in. We've seen this work very well in the financial sector, in service sector. It's not been, massively deployed in the tourism sector, again, because of what I said earlier. People look at tourism as a physical experience. Yeah. People want to be there to feel, to touch, to see. And so it behoves us as the players in the sector to start thinking, how do we pivot? How do we pivot these technologies to ensure that the future of tourism is secure, so that at the next, circuit breaker, whenever that will happen, tourism sector is not going to be hit as hard. So, we are seeing people now building cashless payment systems, digitalization of the travel experience itself. So in Kenya here, for example, actually iGov, at the beginning of this pandemic, we came up with a contact tracing solution for public service vehicles.
Okay.
Seeing this pivot now into and it was ideally motivated by contact tracing. So the need to be able to build passenger manifests, to be able to track contacts. But now we are seeing it, pivoting into how do people manage their local travels? How do you compare prices? The industry players asked us to integrate cashless payments. So cashless payments is also going to be a big thing. We are seeing restaurants now doing digital menus, for example. So, they're no longer hard copy menus. Everybody has gone QR code. Right. So we need to think about how we build native applications to address local circumstances, because again, tourism is different in different places, so Ghana, South Africa, Egypt, Europe, everybody is going to have different experiences. But we need to start thinking about how we pivot this, big tech that we've seen working very well in other sectors hasn't been localized for tourism.
No, 100%. And look, great insights. And I was actually wondering, Wisdom, obviously with you being, in West Africa, right? What have you seen there in the sense of, do you think technology is going to accelerate, like in terms of adoption, given what happened? Because obviously you have a pretty diversified, group of businesses yourself. So what are your insights in that respect?
Yeah, Dennis. Yeah, what I also think about what this pandemic has brought to us in the travel and tourism industry is we all have to digitize, we all have to go digital in the sense that tourism is mostly about people traveling to your country, exploring other places. And now that Corona or the COVID has brought all this to a halt, so with the kind of, especially with my travel and tour industry, during the COVID times, we used to organize conferences whereby we go to schools trying to give them opportunities about the travel and tourism industry, about education abroad elsewhere. So with this COVID period, we weren't able to even organize these conferences.
Yeah.
We had to also go digital in the sense that we had to be organizing Zoom meetings just to educate people about travel opportunity elsewhere, just to educate people about education abroad elsewhere. You see, so I see now this has made everything or everyone to think about going digital in the sense that now physical contact has reduced. Unlike first, someone had to come to my office for me to apply school for him or her. Now things are not like that anywhere. I can even sit in the comfort from my home and someone will see my advert. I call him through Zoom. I send him my packages. Then the person will make me apply school for him or her. So in as much as this COVID was a big challenge to us, it also brought a different aspect of our industry that we had not encountered or that we have not known for a very longer time. In the sense that we were organizing conferences by going to schools, and now COVID made us host virtual conferences and all that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we are trying to still continue with the conferences that we do organize online on Zoom, on free conference call up and all that. And it has been good.
Well, we're doing our best, right? Considering, especially in Africa, internet connections aren't the best often, so that has made it quite challenging at times with these virtual things. But look, it's great to see that all of our connections are pretty stable. Look, Havar, I actually wanted to ask you something as well, and this follows up on what Ronald mentioned around different concepts emerging, right? So given COVID, right, and the fact that tourism operators have really had to think outside the box, right? Do you think that this situation can enable entirely new, concepts for tourism? I guess beyond what's typically been done with normal kind of national strategies.
Well, totally, and I think this. Thanks for asking that question. Actually, I think if we look at this is actually as a consequence of super accelerated digitization that we've seen globally because of this is basically what we've seen. Digitization has gone into a new gear globally. And well, you mentioned the internet, the connectivity. Well, Kenya, has the 14th fastest in the world. As in Kenya, East Africa in general is pretty well off internet, as in connectivity wise. And there's, I think, there are some opportunities we're seeing here in terms of tourism where way beyond what has been what we've thought of before. If you think about it more broadly, and this is a great opportunity for most African countries, especially those with a coastline, is that you see Barbados and Bermuda, they've already brought in 1-year visas for digital workers, as in people who want to work remotely long term.
Well, actually, interestingly enough, Georgia as well, which is kind of a little bit further up the coast. But I mean, yeah, it's interesting that these different countries are bringing these visas in.
Well, I mean, it's all kinds of countries, as in people prefer different things. So all countries actually have the opportunity to do that. Now, digital nomads in the 21st century, they can work from anywhere. So doesn't matter if they're on, doesn't matter if they're at the equator or in Antarctica, as long as they have a stable internet connection.
Yeah.
And this is, I mean, the example set by Bermuda and Barbados, and yes, like you're saying, also Georgia. It's like this could be a really massive opportunity for a lot of African countries, because, well, you have the hot, pleasant climate which people from the northern hemisphere tend to crave, and pristine, beautiful beaches. Now, imagine specifically like working for a year as a digital nomad from a beachfront apartment in Mombasa. So your colleagues in Germany or UK or Scandinavia, if you're talking about some really cold places like where I'm from, then you attend a video conference with the Indian Ocean as a backdrop, whereas your colleagues are suffering in the snow and temperatures below zero.
Yeah. No, I love it how you're using the word suffering, because it is. Yeah, I have a lot of friends that are suffering at the moment. You're right. So,
so as in, actually, if you think about what this means economically, now, say $5,000 a month is it's a pretty high salary. It would be considered a pretty high salary here in Kenya. Northern Europe, it's more like average. So imagine then if Kenya would attract like 10,000 digital nomads who each work for on average for a year from Kenya, bringing in $5,000 a month, as in $60,000 a year.
Yeah.
Totally realistic scenario. Now that is, as in, that's $600 million.
Yeah.
Of cash inflows into the economy, and that's just by attracting 10,000. It could probably be possible to attract even a lot more. So these are substantial cash inflows into African economies that we would be looking at. And I think governments like in Kenya and a lot of other countries on this continent should be much more aggressive about seizing that opportunity. Bring in the 1-year remote worker visas.
Yeah, no, very interesting perspective. And I guess, that's the kind of outside in point of view, right? And then Ronald, you mentioned a little bit earlier around kind of domestic tourism, right? So do you think that, I guess technology and kind of, travel tech and all that can help stimulate demand on a domestic level? Because obviously that's a pretty big opportunity as well at the moment.
I mean, you're absolutely right. We have already seen a bit of this happening. So, for example, if you take the project that Google is doing in Kenya with the museums of Kenya, and working with private sector players like Shujaa Stories, where they are actually digitally documenting cultural artifacts and cultural stories, and they're putting this out in digital formats on different platforms, and people then can be able to interact. So if we are talking about, because when tourists coming into Kenya, they want to go into places like the museums of Kenya, they want to go into African Cultural Heritage Center, they want to go into Fort Jesus. Now, how do we document this? How do we digitize these experiences and make this available to anyone, anywhere in the world? So, this is one step I think that we are seeing already happening, and we would like to see more of. The Fort Jesus, which is one of the largest tourism attractions in Kenya, in the coast, in Mombasa, has already started doing virtual tours of the fort. Again, this has not been scaled up to the level where it can attract the kind of numbers that Hava was talking about, but it's an opportunity, and because it has already been tested, these are things that we can start seeing scaling up. We also, for public, and again, tourism is all about movement, right? And making movement easy. So tour operators need to start thinking about, again, how do you build confidence of tourists who are coming in person experience these things. So we need to relook at, the transport and logistics part of tourism. So again, how do we digitalize that process? How do we ensure efficiencies in bookings, in payments? How do we train the tour operators to ensure that they're meeting the specific WHO guidelines to ensure that travel is safe? Again, and I think we alluded to this earlier. When you visit the Masai Mara, the visit is not complete unless you visit a Masai Manyata, right? So again, how do we ensure that interaction with local communities is enabled in a safe manner? But overall, I think there is huge opportunity to pivot, technologies that we have seen working in other sectors pretty well.
No, that's look, great insight. And then Wisdom, I'm just curious as well. What have you seen, kind of, from your point of view? Because obviously you are involved in quite a few different, tourism sector businesses, right? So in terms of stimulating local domestic demand, what do you think could be done at the moment to help that from a technology standpoint?
Yeah, okay, then it's concerning the tourism, how we can digitize tourism in order for it to just boost the demand. Yeah, I see tourism is more of you moving to the place to just to tour some few places, and in order to get fun or excitement from it. So now all what I can say from us moving tourism by to from a technology concept is, one, we can create more of virtuals, more of by creating content of our tourist attraction or of our tourist sites, and by trying to sell them online, in the sense that, let's say we have our castles here in Ghana, and now COVID has brought everything to a standstill. So what then can we do about concerning how we can still make sure people still patronize in tourism? We can just have nice captions for our tourism attraction sites, and by publicizing them online for people to even just read them, because now people are not moving out to embark on tour as it used to be. And another thing that I will also say with regards to the tourism tech, or with regards to going digital about tourism, is now people also can can uh, can embark on tourism in the sense that by organizing seminars, virtual seminars, in order to educate people more about the tourist attraction site. Because now people can't travel as it used to be previously. But now we can just organize virtual conferences in order to still educate people about the tourism industry or about our tourist sites here in Ghana. Because now you can't just wake up and say you are traveling to the Flagstaff House where the president lives, or you are going to visit Osu Castle here in Ghana or other tourist centers. But we can also try and create content online, and in so doing that, boost them in order to attract huge sums of people to know our tourist attraction. And if everything comes to normal, we can just embark on our normal travel and tourism.
No, definitely. Look, thank you for that. You're right. I guess digitization is going to play a massive role in that. I guess, Havar, one of the things that I wanted to ask you, because one of the things you can't really digitize is staying at a hotel, right? So, given the fact that, you're kind of involved in hotels specifically, right? I'm just curious to kind of get your insight, because I've seen it happen. Once again, I've been involved in launching, something that's involved with hotels here in Russia this year, which has been really challenging. What have you seen in Africa from a hotel standpoint? Like, how bad is it, and what can be done to kind of, stimulate that side of things?
Well, hotels are, of course, the hotel industry, again. So, but the interesting thing, as in, I think the interesting thing about mankind is our resilience. You know, no matter what happens, no matter how hard the world, and no matter how hard human civilization is hit by anything, by something, life goes on eventually. People adjust to the new reality. People start living in the new normal, and this is what we're seeing. Of course, well, I mean, yeah, now there's a vaccine, so maybe can see things getting back to something close to the old normal in a 6 to 12 months perspective. But for now, it's people are again staying at hotels. They are more careful. They're more cautious. They're looking for the safer options.
Yeah.
But of course, safety, credible COVID safety has become a selling point, as in it's become a very important selling point in the marketing material for hotels, as in we're looking at all kinds of safety measures, from credible touchless solutions, disinfection, as in how rooms are disinfected, but also I think I think also, there are, like you're saying, you cannot digitize staying in a hotel. Well, that's true to some extent. Now, what Ronald mentioned earlier on is, of course, the QR codes that we're seeing restaurants bringing in order to reduce the physical touching of items. And we are actually doing the same, as in we are actually doing this both for restaurants and hotels in Africa right now. But while most restaurants they just have a QR code that you scan and get a menu, we have a fully interactive solution where you scan, you get to an interactive ordering portal.
Gotcha.
And the kitchen or the bar, they receive the order in a what you call a kitchen display system, where the order comes up as digital post-it notes on a tablet, really, or tickets on a tablet. And we're also doing this as a room service solution for hotels. We're already rolling this out at a couple of hotels here in Nairobi, and well, we are actually the first on the continent to be rolling out a solution like this, at least to our knowledge. So, and this is also the kind of solution that has become widely in demand now because of COVID-19. Because instead of having a room service menu in the room that 20 other people have touched before you in just the last 2 weeks, you can actually just scan a QR code. You get an ordering portal on your phone. You place your order. The QR code is unique. So 20 minutes, as in, plus you avoid the whole human error, as in people, as in, when you know how it is when you order room service normally. First you have to find the menu, then you have to find the number to call, you have to touch the room phone, which a lot of people have touched before. Then there's the aspect of human error, as in there's basically a 50% probability that whoever takes your order actually gets something wrong. Here you have 100% accuracy. And the next thing you know is that they actually bring whatever you ordered up to your room. So it's a much more convenient way of doing room service. And I think we're going to see we're going to see this is another area where we will see a super acceleration of the digitization in terms of the whole guest experience at a hotel, where you can order pretty much any service imaginable from the hotel from your own device.
Yeah. I've seen solutions like that. It's great that that's being adopted, I guess, in Kenya, which is really inspiring. From the point of view, I guess, we've kind of discussed the private sector perspective, right? But I guess a big part of any kind of tourism industry ecosystem is the government, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a way to stimulate demand. So, Roland, I was just curious. I mean, because you all, actually, interestingly enough, you all have a mix of nonprofit kind of government-related activity as well as private sector stuff. So, Roland, like, what have you seen kind of governments, maybe Kenya or other economies that you're involved in? What have you seen them do to kind of help tourism operators and technology companies get back on track?
Yeah, that's a very good point you raise, Dennis. I mean, at the end of the day, government must help private sector create that environment that enables them to recover and to start looking forward towards the future. I mean, one of the things I think all of us are looking forward to, and I think have alluded to it, is the vaccine. You know, we all know the bleeding is going to stop only when the vaccine is made available. So I think that's the first port of call. I mean, every government needs to be putting in as much effort to support private sector players, but also to support research institutions to ensure that a vaccine, you know, is found soon, not just, you know, in the West, but also on the continent of Africa. Obviously, we have the good news that came out of the US yesterday, and that's a step in the right direction. But every government really—
Are you calling that a vaccine? Yeah.
We'll wait and see.
Yeah. Well, they have discovered a vaccine here in Russia as well.
That was not US, that was Europe.
Oh, that was Europe visa. Okay. So I mean, I think the second thing that needs to be done is to increase confidence levels on the operations of the sector, so that people are willing to step out of their houses a bit more and start getting out. But this is only going to be viable if, you know, we have consistent messaging around, you know, health and safety protocols. Government of Kenya has been very big on that. You know, a task force was established, I think, early on in the pandemic. They came out with guidelines, and they're enforcing those guidelines across the sector, whether it is travel, hotels, and all these other places. I mean, we're staying home today, but tomorrow we all want to travel. So that has to be a concern. You know, keeping all these tourism sites visible, you know, so that people don't withdraw into their cocoons, sharing content and stories. We started traveling to share the confidence that it is safe to travel. It is safe to use some of these experiences, but also, you know, pivoting, I guess, on stakeholder experience. So consistent engagement with stakeholder, and this can only be coordinated by government, really, so that we are learning, we are taking in the feedback, we are remodeling, and consistently in that loop. But at the end of the day, bailouts. Thinking about how they bail out the sector. It's not going to be cheap, but it's something that government will have to do. For Kenya, it is a no-brainer. I mean, this is the third largest sector of the economy, and government just has, and it is the one that has taken the highest hit. So government just has to think about how do we find the resources to pump into the sector to revive travel.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, look, you know, obviously Kenya is a bigger economy, I guess. You know, Wisdom, what have you seen in Ghana in terms of, you know, is the government doing anything to kind of stimulate the economy in the local industry? Like, what's from your point of view?
Yes, I would say the government is doing quite well to help the tourism industry here in Ghana, because during the COVID period, about 4 months ago, the government held stakeholders meeting. We met all the travel and tourism industry, the stakeholders in that industry, and allocated some funds, about 200 million Ghana cedis, just to help the travel and tourism industry, because the government observed that the tourism or the hospitality industry players have run at a loss for quite some number of months. So the government mobilized some funds that he shared it to the tourism industry, but the government gave it to them as loan. So meaning if things stabilize, they also made plans of you making payment of this loan. And one other thing that I can also recommend the government is about them reopening the borders. Though the government has reopened the borders, because in as much as COVID has been a major hit to all the industry, most especially the travel and tourism industry, the government also opened the borders. And aside them opening the borders, initially it was just the domestic flights that the government opened, and all the safety protocols were being observed. and that also helped them because for quite some about 4 or 5 months they were not operating, and they also had staff to take care of, to make payments, to pay operational costs and all that. You see,
Right.
so the government also did well by opening the borders. Though the borders the government has opened, but I also see this also as a good side and also as its own bad side. Though the borders has been open, but are the government putting in the needed resources or the needed checks in order to track all those with COVID entering your country? It's not just about the government opening up borders for people to just move freely, but it's also about the well-being of the people in the country. So let's say now the government has opened border. Though as a travel and tour consultant, I'm happy because now people will purchase tickets from me. But it shouldn't just come from that perspective or that angle. We also have to think about the health of the people. We also have to think about the well-being of the people. So, in as much as the government has opened borders, now people are traveling to other places to, most especially the business people, but are they also being observing the protocols? So the government also did that, and I will just add a little about the vaccine that my big brother Ronald just said. The vaccine will be the solution to this whole mess. The
No.
vaccine will be the solution because though borders has been open, but still, even if you are entering Ghana, you have to pay $150, and $150 is huge
Right.
money here. Let's say someone is traveling to Ghana and the person has to pay 150 on arrival for COVID test, the PCR test. And let's say if it's negative, then you enter Ghana. And
Yeah.
2 days, 3 days, if you want to move out again, you have to again pay that $150 again for the government to again check you that you are still tested negative before you can even board flight. And that's huge. That's huge sum of money that the government is taking. But
Interesting.
so I think the vaccine will bring all this mess to a standstill. Then the tourism industry will come to normal.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's once again interesting to see, kind of the perspective of a slightly different economy that's a little bit smaller than Kenya, right? So, I guess one of the things, like you mentioned rightfully, that it is about kind of stimulating things with funding, right? I guess Ronald, quick question before, because we're going to wrap up shortly, but what do you think from a private sector funding standpoint? Like, what's been happening there? Like, is investment happening in tourism tech and travel tech? Have you seen more money kind of flowing into that sector, or is it all at a pause and a standstill, at the moment?
Yeah, what I will say with regards to that though the government is trying to give out give out some loans to those in the travel and hospitality industry, it's going to help them one way or the other. But still, things are not back to normal. Things
Yeah.
are not back to normal. They are, though the hotels are operating, but the government only gave that loans in order to just cushion those key players in the travel and tourism industry.
Sure.
So though the government gave out this loan, it's just to cushion those in the travel
Yeah.
and hospitality industry.
No, interesting. And what about Ronald? What have you seen, given the funds that you're involved in terms of, has funding kind of been still going on, or is it as a standstill?
I think a lot of investors had taken a wait and see stance. We're beginning to see pockets opening up. I know you're referring to the fund that we manage, the Catalytic Jobs Fund.
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
Which is really a UK aid funded program. And look, catalytic funds have not been in vogue, right? because people have largely invested for returns on investments. But now we need to think about how do we invest to catalyze jobs, but also then to catalyze further investment. So we need to see more funds that will de-risk the sector, will de-risk tourism tech startups, so that then we get a lot more private financing coming in. So in my view, we need a two-step approach. How do we de-risk the sector in the short term to be able to make the sector more lucrative as soon as this lockdowns and pandemic are lifted. So we need to start thinking about COVID catalytic funds. We already set aside a few million pounds to support COVID, mostly businesses that are pivoting into COVID response measures while creating jobs. So we need to see a lot more of that within the tourism space. Of course, there needs to be a lot of policy and regulatory support. We need to start thinking about strategic investment. So new spaces. For example, can we gamify the sector? All right. So gamification, we're already seeing that in Kenya. You have people like Nairobi Gaming Development Center, Usiku Games, who are beginning to build local tourism-focused games. All right, and this creates the immersions that we were talking about, the experiences from a gamification perspective. Throw in virtual reality into this, and we begin to take people closer to those spaces. But these guys will need a lot of investments to come in. And so there has to be a mind shift even from the investor perspective in terms of what kind of investments do we want to put money in that will catalyze the sector, but will also catalyze jobs.
Yeah, no, look, very interesting perspective, actually. And look, gentlemen, we have 4 minutes left. So I'm just going to ask you to keep this brief so we don't go over time. But the question is, I guess, from your point of view, with what's happening, with the reality of what's going on, what do you see as being the 1 or 2 main opportunities, say, for entrepreneurs across the African continent that they could seize, in that travel and tourism tech space, and focus on to kind of, really kind of move Africa forward in that sense? Havar, interested to hear your perspective. Once again, just, a couple of brief points because we have about 3 minutes left. So that'd be appreciated. Havar, keen to hear what your thoughts are.
Very briefly, I think so. I think the most important thing that, or probably the longest lasting effect of this crisis, also post-COVID, is going to be that some habits have changed, and we've seen it. I mean, I think the social distancing, the avoiding touching things, it's still going to remain in people's minds for a long time. And so I think touchless technologies, as in contactless solutions, contactless technologies, are still going to remain in demand also post-COVID, simply because of the change of mindset. When people are subjected to change of conditions, change of environment, change of reality over an extended period of time, then the change of habit becomes permanent. I think what we're seeing about contactless, about the whole contactless trend, is going to persist for a very long time post-COVID.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. And Wisdom, if you could just keep it brief and give your kind of forecast on what you think would be a good opportunity to focus on post-COVID for people wanting to get into travel. I mean, founders wanting to get into travel and tourism tech. What do you think is the one opportunity that they can look at?
Me?
Yeah, Wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah, what I think will also help those. Yeah, please, the question again.
What do you think is, once again, keep it brief because we have 2 minutes left, so we have to wrap this up. But what do you think is the one opportunity that, say, a founder or a startup could focus on to really kind of, move the African travel and tourism sector forward over the next few years post-COVID? Just one opportunity.
Okay, everything all comes to us going digital. Everything comes to all going digital. Because previously, let's say people might come to the office for education consultancy, but now I can just even sit in the comfort of my home, then talk to someone in Nigeria, Abuja, in Zimbabwe, or for him to know my packages in order to apply the school that the person wants.
Okay, perfect. So digitization, yep, great insight. And then Ronald, we have about a minute left, so if you could just kind of quickly summarize, maybe 30 seconds or so, just what you think is that one opportunity, that'd be great. And then we'll wrap this up.
I mean, I agree with Havar and Wisdom that we have to go, people have to think mobile first application.
Yeah.
But secondly, I think the industry has focused too much on group packages. So we always think group. And with social distancing, we now need to start thinking about personalized packages. And for that to happen, you know, we have to pivot big data. So big data, big data, big data.
Excellent. Look, great way to wrap it up. Data is definitely the future. Look, thank you all very much for taking part in the panel today. Amazing insights. Yeah, I really enjoyed hearing the different perspectives. I hope you all have a great week. And then for those of you listening and tuned into this, hope you enjoyed the conversation. Very stimulating and insightful. And enjoy the rest of African Innovation Week.
Everybody, thank you, Dennis.
All right, thank you so much.
Bye-bye.